Hello, envious ones. I hope you're having a safe and healthy end of summer, and I hope you'll enjoy this new episode of the Geek Envy podcast. This week's episode is sponsored by Gracie and Joe, who are celebrating their 40th wedding anniversary. Congratulations to the happy couple. Without further ado, here's the latest episode of the Geek Envy podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome to Geek Envy Podcast episode 54. My name is Eric, and the podcast is about video games, geek culture, and anything else we feel like talking about, which is usually a lot of nothing, but we are here again. We have our general crew. We have Courtney.
Hello.
We have our newbie Sam.
Hey.
And a returning favorite, Matthew.
The infamous Matthew.
Yes, the infamous Matthew. Joey is on a well-deserved night out doing who knows what. But we are here in his stead and pretty much going to run the show.
I actually think Joey's going to the Poconos. So,
Going where I was going?
Oh, God. I have PTSD from the Poconos.
From me or just from in general?
In general.
Oh, man. All right. Well, our last podcast was Geek Envy Game Night. It completely sucked. I'm sticking to my guns on that. You guys, we all competed against each other in 3 rounds of 20 questions, video game style. Courtney ended up being our victor somehow.
Insert Valkyrie cry.
Sam, newbie over here, just decided to steamroll me for some reason.
So sorry.
No,
I'm not.
I was left looking stupid. But no, the first video game was Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. I'm covering these because I don't know if we actually... Oh, we did answer them. Yeah, we did. Second was Persona 3, the PS2 version. And the final game was Oxenfree. So let us all bow to our supreme overlord.
I'm used to this kind of treatment, so keep going.
But really, to the meat of what we're here about is... we're interviewing a beer drinker, a Gundam builder, a connoisseur of brewed hoppy beverages, plastic kits. Say hello to Jamel. Jamel?
Hey.
Trying to hype you up here, trying to get us everyone. I mean, you're known on Instagram as Colvinology. Go ahead, please introduce yourself.
Yeah. So my name's Jamel. I have the Instagram account Colvinology, where I post beer reviews with Gundams.
Very succinct and straightforward.
Yeah, it's pretty much, it is what it is.
So Matthew, of course, was our geek at heart here for you.
Yes, I'm a big fan, so I've been following you for a while. I think I've actually shot you a couple of Instagram messages, and you gave me a couple tips back when I first started building Gunpla, which is cool.
Oh, awesome.
So, I think it was a while ago, maybe a year or two ago. So,
well, I'm glad you actually got through to me, because people send messages and they just get lost.
Well, I think I commented on something, but you replied. So I was like, oh, man, this guy's cool. So yeah,
cool.
No, it's definitely an awesome mix of what you do. I think a lot of people see Gundam as this kind of like very niche, nerdy thing in terms of building. And kind of like the brewing side as something that's also very like way separated from building Gundams.
Is anyone drinking a beer right now?
I should be, but I did not. We should have all drank a beer.
I feel like we're failing at the third.
Yeah.
I'm drinking a Dogfish Head Pumpkin Ale, if anyone cares. It's very tasty.
Okay, I've got a Goose Island IPA, so there we go.
See, I didn't have a beer. I didn't want to be like slurping and sipping.
Oh man, you can always bring a beer.
Just
to the
mute the
podcast,
mic when you drink.
If you want to run and get one, we'll wait. Like it's cool.
Yeah. It's audio
hold
only.
on.
They'll never know.
I'll go grab one.
He's off to get one. See,
Yeah.
man, this podcast's off to a good start. This is beautiful.
Definitely.
This is beautiful.
We're not shy on drinking. I think we've mentioned a few times what we all have in
We're gonna be
hand.
talking beer anyways. Might as well.
All right.
So what do you got on hand?
Got a Lush IPA from Fremont Brewing.
Oh man, see,
There we go.
that sounds amazing.
All right. So I'm going to jump in real quick, and I know we talked about how it's a far separation between Gundam and kind of the brewing.
Yeah.
But do you consider yourself a nerd, or do you consider, like, other than Gundam, are you into anything nerdy?
Oh man, yeah. I mean, I'm not really sure do people just get into Gundam without having like a predisposition to like anime and things like that?
I want to say no, but
Well, you could turn Toonami
like-
on one day and like the early millennium, and just catch Gundam, not realize what it was, I guess.
Right.
I've met a couple.
Could've been a-
Yes.
I've met a couple like war builders that come into the shop, and so we like. At least my local shop has a lot of war builders, and it has a lot of like mini painters, and then it's got the Gunpla guys, and so we all kind of talk, and so sometimes people are like, "Oh, maybe I'll try this." So I've had that happen a couple times when someone like tried to build some Gunpla without really having ever seen it. They'd heard of it over the years, but that's it.
But no, I'm into a bunch of anime. I do video games. I go through periods where I'm either super into or just taking a break from buying tons and tons of comics. So I think I'm a pretty big all-around nerd.
nice. So what would you consider your first introduction into Gundam then, if we're talking about like how, whether you're introduced through anime or something else? What was your initial dive into it?
I mean, it's definitely Gundam Wing. I think that was like the jumping in point for a lot of people when they used to show it on Toonami on Cartoon Network
back in the
like,
day.
2000. Yeah.
Definitely a gateway anime.
Way back in
Come
the
home
day.
from school, turn on Toonami. Those were the days.
And I remember seeing just this ridiculous teaser for it where they just had like a Gundam fly across the screen, and I went, whoa! Because, I was in middle school and that was cool. And so, yeah, never stopped.
So when was your first attempt at a kit then? Was it when you were a teenager?
Yeah, I was in middle school. It was when I first started watching Gundam, because as soon as I found out that there were these kits that you could, build, I tried to track them down, but it was like 2001. So the only
I was gonna say I couldn't imagine getting a kit back in 2001. Like, where do you even get a kit from?
sometimes the comic book stores would have them, but the best place to get them would be at like art shows. They would have like a Japanese booth. And so I would have to sneak away from my mother because they would also have those big titty mouse pads hanging up everywhere. And
I hope you have one.
Hey, I'm going over here.
From then.
And so, I built a couple high-grade and no-grade kits. And they were awful. I didn't really know what I was doing. I think I tried to paint one with a Sharpie.
I did that too.
Yeah, it did not work well. Yeah.
Have you been building since then, or?
Oh, no, I took a huge break. I didn't get back into building Gundams until I was in my first apartment. Like maybe, I guess it was like 5-6 years ago now. Yeah, there was like a Gundam warehouse near me where I used to live, and I went down there and I grabbed a couple kits and I went, oh, holy shit, I remember, this is great. And I just went off. I just started buying kits left and right.
I had a very similar experience. Like, I think I found my first Gundam kit at a mall back in like 2002. It was like a comic book store, and they had a couple, and I built one. And I thought it was cool, but like it didn't look as cool as it did on the box. And I never built another one until I was like in my 30s. And then when I found it again, I was like, oh, this was awesome. And then all of a sudden, I just had hundreds of them. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I didn't really know what like panel lining or anything was, and so you build it and you look at the box and you're like, well, this isn't the same at all, is it?
Right. It looks so
Yeah, it's
awesome. It's all
interesting.
dynamic on there, and then it looks like a toy once you build it. But then you don't realize you got to put some work into it to make it look good. So.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I went through hell just to get my tiny, terrible kit. I can't also go, hey, I need to go back out and track down panel wash.
Right, for sure.
So you said you started with no grade. What was it? No grade, high grade kits?
Yeah, just like the smallest, cheapest ones.
So what have you moved up to now? I'm assuming you're doing perfect grades or higher, right? Master grades?
I am doing almost entirely master grades. It's my favorite size. It's my favorite level of detail. I actually don't have any perfect grades yet because I didn't have space before I moved. But at this point, I want to start getting like the big, giant, ridiculous kits.
Jeez.
Yeah, like I've got the Deep Striker, which is the giant one with the big gun.
Oh, yeah. That's an MG, I think, right? It's the one with that big
that's an
backpack on
MG.
it. Yeah, the little circle decals on the shoulders.
Yeah. And I also want the high-grade Dendrobium, which is massive because it's like a tiny Gundam in a big, giant mobile armor.
Yeah, that one's really cool too. Have you ever built a
If I
perfect
can-
grade? Or
No, I haven't.
I just bought my
And, like, I
first
wanted
one,
my-
but it's like sitting there looking at me, and I'm like, I don't know when I'm gonna do this. So
I wanted my first one to be like a really cool one, and I almost bought the Perfect Grade Exia with the lighting module in it.
Yeah.
But then that sold out, and after that I didn't want to go. Well, I don't want one that I liked less than that. So
right, I got the Grandpa, which I hear is like an older kit, but I was like, it's classic.
But it's still
so,
great.
Yeah, I'll try it. So we'll see.
Yeah.
So Matt, what was your first kit? Mine was a HG Buster Gundam, a 2000 something model.
Well, if we're talking like the first time ever when I was a kid, I think it was a no grade wing. I can't even really remember. But when I got back into it, I think my first kit was an HG Zagok Char's version, so it was like the red one. So it was pretty cool.
No, I started later in life, so hence I had a friend who went to Japan, brought me back like 2 kits, and they were Japanese HG kits, and so I was like, all right, well, I've never done this before, but I could probably do this.
Actually, you know what? I just lied. Eric, I think you bought Joey and I for our Christmas one year.
Was it those? It was the mini
like an
kits.
SD Gundam. And I think I started building that, and I was like, wow, this is really cool. And then I bought a couple on Amazon after that. So I think it was actually you that got me into it, Eric.
What have I done?
So what was your first kit, though, Jamel?
Oh man, I think back in the day it had to have been like a high grade Shenlong.
Okay.
And then I think my second one was like a no grade Ultron from Endless Waltz, because that was my favorite Gundam at the time.
Yeah, nice.
When I got back into it, I think my first kit was, I bought 3. I think the first one I built was a high grade Banshee, and then I built the real grade Gundam Mark II, and then I built a master grade Death Scythe, and I went, nope, it's all master grade.
Nice. I'm working on the real grade Mark II right now, actually.
Oh, it's a great kit.
Yeah.
It's got a ton of detail.
I'm just doing water slides for it right now. I got it done, but yeah, it looks really good, so I'm liking it. It's pretty solid, too.
Oh yeah.
They're so small, though, those real grade kits. They're so tiny.
Oh yeah. I wanted. I've been really tempted to just get into real grades, because the real grade Sazabi and the real grade New Gundam look amazing, and yeah, I've been really tempted.
Yeah, I recently built the Sazabi, and it's as good as they say it is. And I got the new with the funnel effects in my backlog right now. It's probably going to be my next one after the Mark II.
So to date, how many kits have you built?
Ooh.
If we're talking like considering your career now with what you've built.
I think about 60. I think like last time I counted was about 60, because right before I moved, my apartment was just absolutely full. I had no extra space, and now I do, and I'm building the master grade Faz, so that's a huge boy.
Nice. That one's new, isn't it? Isn't that the new?
Yeah.
That's a Verka, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And do you keep all of them, the ones you've built?
Yeah.
Or wow. And how do you display them? Do you just decide which ones go up, which ones go in the corner?
So I've got right now 3 shelves, and in my apartment I had 3 shelves and like a little wall shelf, and so my older ones were on the wall shelf, and then the coolest ones were on the 2 bookshelves that you see in a lot of my pictures, and then sort of the other ones are on this glass shelf over here in the corner. But I generally try to display them all unless they, like I had an Astray Red frame that just disintegrated at a certain point. Like the master grade Astray Red frame, it's not super sturdy and solid. Like the leg joints broke and the pieces fell off of it.
That's interesting. That's how the RG is too. So
that's crazy.
Yeah.
You'd think they'd fix that.
yeah, because that's why I don't like it. I was like, ugh. But
All right, so where would you rank your most favorite kit and your least favorite kit that you built?
Ooh. I think my most favorite kit is still the master grade Sananju Stein. It's a huge master grade. It's solid. It can actually hold its weapon to a reasonable degree. It has none of the problems of the normal Sananju. And it's just pretty much the gold standard, I think, for master grades. My other favorite kit is probably, again, that Deep Striker, which it's a brick. It doesn't move much at all, but it just looks so incredible. Like, I love it. My least favorite kit, man... Let me just turn around and take a look real quick.
It's got stacks in the corner.
I think my least favorite kit to build actually was the Master Grade Unicorn Phoenix, the bright gold one. and it looks amazing, but the build process is absolutely horrible. If you've ever built a master grade unicorn, they're not designed very well, so the legs don't really bend very well, and the transformation is really finicky unless you sand down all the nubs perfectly. But the issue with the Phoenix is that it has that gold coating, so you can't actually sand down the nubs because you rip off the coating.
Right. Is it underdated?
No.
Oh, it's not? Oh, man.
It is not. It has the worst nub mark is right on the shoulder armor, right where it transforms. There's a big nub right there.
Oh, man.
And so on the Phoenix, I had to like dab it in with gold Gundam marker. But if you drip the gold Gundam marker on another part and try to wipe it off, it also eats through the gold finish.
Right. It eats through it. Yeah. So
Yeah.
So
This sounds like a headache.
for those who aren't model builders, undergating is a way that the piece connects to the sprue, and so it's kind of underneath the part so that when you cut it, it doesn't show a stress mark. So, and it's especially needed for things that are shiny or reflective because those have a high chance of stress marks.
Well, like the Hayakushiki 2.0, which is another great solid kit, it's gold and it's all undergated, and so it looks pristine. It looks perfect when you build it. There's no issues with it. Right. And I'm pretty sure it's actually older than the Phoenix, so I don't understand. They've got this issue with not taking advancements forward to the next kit. So like one kit will have like a really great hands or really great leg joints, and the next one just won't.
Right. Yeah. I think they reuse a lot of old stuff sometimes.
Absolutely.
To quickly, do that whole. They don't want to re-engineer it all from the bottom.
They should though. People would pay a ton for like a completely re-engineered kit.
For sure.
Out of the genre of mecha anime, which one would you consider your favorite?
Well, I've got a Gundam and a non-Gundam category.
That's fair. That's fair. I have that
fair.
too because Gundam there's so many, so
Yeah.
that's just a category in and of itself. So I get that.
So my favorite Gundam series are two of the Universal Century side stories. It's 0080 and 0083. And 0080 is the really short one. It's like 6 episodes.
Yeah, MS
War in the Pocket.
War in a Pocket
Yep.
is my favorite one.
Yep.
That is my absolute favorite Gundam, like hands down.
It's
that is, I think,
It's so
everyone's.
good.
It's got like one of my favorite kind of tropes where it's like, oh, these two people are kind of in love, but they don't know they're enemies, and then one of them dies, and they don't know they died.
Yeah, it's so good. The animation's gorgeous too.
Absolutely. I love that late 80s Gundam style. It's fantastic. I really don't think they've matched it since then.
I agree.
Okay. Non-Gundam?
Ooh, my favorite non-Gundam mecha anime. Oh, man. I feel like it's kind of cliche to say it's Evangelion.
No, that's fine.
No, it's not.
That would be
It's
my.
but I
It's
absolutely love Evangelion.
If you said like Gurren Lagann, then maybe it might have been cliche. I don't know.
Well, that was my second choice.
Okay.
But I hated I like the dub and the sub for Evangelion, but I hated the dub for Gurren Lagann, so
Honestly,
I actually haven't watched it in a while.
have you guys watched the new dub on Netflix of Evangelion?
I haven't.
Yeah, they supposedly changed
Yeah,
it.
because a lot of
Is it better or worse?
A lot of people hated on it because they're so used to the original one, but I feel like the story comes across in a more understandable way. So I'm like watching it right now, and I'm like, either I'm a lot older now, so I'm understanding more because I'm not 16 watching this anymore, or this dub is just translated better, and I think it's a little bit of both, honestly.
It's probably definitely translated
It's
better.
also probably the fact that we
Yeah.
all grasp depression and anxiety a lot better as adults.
Look at you, Sigmund Freud.
There's a lot of reasons there.
There used to be this, it was just sort of a badge if you understood Evangelion, and you would just sort of chuckle at the people who didn't quite get it, even though you didn't quite get it either.
Right.
You just
You'd be
pretended
like,
to.
Exactly.
Oh, you didn't understand End of Evangelion? Ha!
This is true. Chuckle.
Too deep for you?
So, since we finished up talking about some of your aspect in Gundam and your Instagram, let's talk about beer.
Oh, yeah.
So, what do you consider your first introduction to the world of craft beer? Now, I'm sure maybe your regular beer story might be a typical one. If it's not, by all means tell it. But what got you into starting to look more into the craft beer?
Oh, my introduction to regular beer is boring, just like everybody else's. my introduction to craft beer, I was at a friend's house and they gave me a big bottle of this dark farmhouse ale from a brewery called Jolly Pumpkin. And they're like, oh, hey, I don't want this. Do you want it? And I just drank the whole bottle. And it was sort of this mind-blowing moment where I didn't realize beer could taste like that. And
I know, right?
So it was a sour, so it's like tangy and it's tart, but it also had these sort of dark malts and like dark fruit flavors. And at that point, it was seasonal at the time. You couldn't get it. It was just out of season. And so I just started going around to grocery stores trying to find anything that said either dark or farmhouse on it, just trying to like find something that tasted like that beer. And that's where I got started. I ended up in the weeds with a lot of great Belgian beers. Belgian quadruple is still one of my favorite styles.
I don't think I've ever had a Belgian quadruple. I've had a triple.
Oh, do yourself a favor.
So what's different about a triple versus a quadruple?
So, have you had a double?
Yes.
Okay, so
I'll say yes.
A quadruple is much closer to a double, right?
Double.
So, yeah, it's dark, it's malty, it's got those like dark raisin bread flavors. If you can go out and find, they generally have St. Bernardus at 12 pretty much everywhere. It's still one of my absolute favorite Belgian quads. If you find that, or if you find Chimay Blue, pick it up, take it home, and drink it.
Okay.
You have to. That's your homework.
All right. It's my homework. I'm going to do it.
So since you're kind of talking in depth more of like your taste palette and how you're kind of describing the flavors, and I know I didn't write this down, but do you have any background in like the culinary field? Did you taste test as a profession for like a brewery? Like, how do you know how to kind of gauge what the flavors are, and if that question makes any sense?
No, it makes sense. No, I have a degree in literature, and I was teaching literature, so I generally still have a pretty big imposter syndrome, whereas do I actually smell and taste this, or am I just talking out of my ass? So, I don't know, I just try to, like, for instance, this IPA here, it's not quite juicy, it's a bit more of a West Coast style, but I mean, it's generally like if you want to cheat sheet anybody, if it's an IPA, you're going to smell some hops.
Right.
And those are going to smell floral, or they're going to smell grassy, or they're going to smell dank. If it's a juicy IPA, you're probably going to smell some citrus. You're probably going to get some tropical fruit, maybe some pineapple, mango. I actually watched a documentary about people who were taking the sommelier exam for wine tasting, and they would go to like farmers markets and just smell ingredients so they could get the aromas right. And so I started doing that, which is why I now know the difference between passion fruit and guava, which turns out I did not know before at all.
The more you know.
Smart.
Yeah.
You were talking a bit about like the different Belgian brews and stuff. Do you have any other like favorite types of beer? Or like...
Yeah, absolutely. Aside from Belgian beers, I still love sours of all kinds. I've actually gotten to try a few more really good dark sour beers, which it's a really rare style, and it's great. I got really into hazy IPAs for a while, and I still like them, but I think the novelty has worn off a little bit, so I'll still crush one anytime, any place, but it's not like, going out and hunting for the newest hazy IPA. But yeah, I think those are like my favorite styles, unless if I'm trying to impress somebody, obviously you pull out like the 16-17% Imperial Stouts.
Yeah.
And just laugh at people who can't drink them.
So, do you have any particular brand of beer that you enjoy reviewing? Do you have a certain brewery that you work with that you really enjoy, or do you have one particular go-to?
Ooh, not one, but I do have a few.
Name them.
I really love my home state brews, my Michigan beers. Holmes in Ann Arbor, Michigan I still think, some of the best beer in the state. I would put their IPAs up against some of the best IPAs that come out of anywhere in the country. They also make really great fruited sours. I still love Jolly Pumpkin. I still drink their Bam Noir. They still come out with seasonal beers. I really love Toppling Goliath, which I think is in... Oh man, I forgot where that was. It might be Minnesota. Don't quote me on that. They're gonna come after me. Barrel and Beam is also another great sour brewery in Michigan, and they've been really great. I've talked to them a few times. They actually sent me this I posted a picture of it at some point. It's this beautiful handmade gift box that they had, and it's got like their Barrel and Beam logo in it. It's gorgeous.
They were dressing to impress for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So that's some pretty.
It's sitting on my mantle now. It's that nice looking.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's some pretty high praise for like Michigan area brews.
Yeah.
Have you like done a lot of reviews for local like stuff from local breweries and all that, or?
Oh, absolutely. I did a lot more before quarantine forced us all inside, but I would make a point, to like pick up the newer Michigan beers. Like my favorite porter of all time comes from this brewery called Perrin in Michigan, and it's a Vietnamese porter with coconut, and so I would make a point to try and get that every year. Or Old Nation, which became famous fairly recently for their M43 hazy IPA. They do a strawberry variant every year, and I try to go grab that because it's gotten better every single year, and it was mind-blowing the first time. So I do try to represent Michigan beers a lot, just because not only it's the home state, not only because we have such a big beer culture here, but also because everybody's been incredibly nice, incredibly welcoming, incredibly gracious, and it's a great state for beer. Like, I still run up to Grand Rapids and I head to Brewery Vivant. I'm just shouting out every Michigan brewery I know now. But yeah, I make it a point to try and get those.
That's awesome. And
That is
those
really,
sound really good. So.
really cool. Yeah, and especially that you support your community. I think that's really neat.
Oh yeah.
Do you know how many beers you've reviewed off the top of your head?
Oof. I have no idea. It wasn't until like a couple years ago that I actually started reviewing on a schedule and like chronicling my reviews and saving them for later to look back at. And so I guess since I started that, I've done 3 beers a week every week for like 2 or 3 years.
You were cranking away.
Yeah, I think I took off 1 week last year to go to Colorado. But other than that, I'm not sure I've taken many days off.
I mean, could you give an estimate, maybe?
Oof. I would feel comfortable saying that from the time I started reviewing beer, even before I started taking it seriously, I would feel comfortable saying it's around at least 1,000.
That is awesome, and that is quite the career there.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to get into the combination now. We've talked about Gundam. We've talked about beer. How did you decide to mix these two and make a kind of empire on this?
Oh man, the start is a super boring story. I was already posting.
It's never boring. Come on.
I was already posting just the beers I was drinking because I would just like no hashtags, no anything. I had like 4 followers, and I would just go, look at this cool label. And when I started, building Gundams again, I thought, well, I want to show this too, and I started putting them together. It wasn't until like much later that I started trying to actually match them, and I got lighting going, and I started doing real reviews, and at the point where I thought, oh, people actually like this, and they actually care what I'm saying here.
Your photography skills are on point. Like the color palettes, how you mix the labels with the specific Gundams. I mean, I'm just gonna give that to you. There's no follow-up question. We just love everything about what you do.
I'm a huge
there.
fan, for sure, on your skill with that. I love how you color coordinate everything. Like, I was just gushing over your feed.
Do you match it just based on like tasting? You'll drink a beer and you're like, all right, this is the ZZ Gundam. We're going with this one. Like, how does that work?
I generally start with either a beer I want to review or a Gundam I want to feature, and then it's as simple as trying to find a beer with color palettes that match. I can sort of fudge it a little bit. If it's a selfie, I can put on a shirt that matches better, and so I think the hardest one to match is that sort of greenish teal seafoam Turn X.
Right.
And so it's almost impossible to match perfectly. But, if I put on a teal shirt or I turn on some teal lights, then, I can match it good enough with like a bluer or a greener beer label. But it's really just based on aesthetics.
That's super cool.
Well,
Yeah, it is.
actually, that's not even true because I guess if there's like a larger kit, I wouldn't use like a tiny normal looking can. I would do like a big bottle. So I guess it is a little bit about just matching it in general.
Well, you also mix up glasses, right? You don't.
Oh yeah.
You kind of like do a glass and pour, but the glasses are all different too, right?
I have a few glasses that I sort of alternate between, but yeah, generally, if the glass has like New Holland in Michigan sent me this really beautiful Teku glass with an embossed gold dragon on it. And so if a kit of mine has gold in it, I'll try to use that glass because it just matches really well. But yeah, if it's a tall kit, tall bottle, I'll use a taller glass. And if it's shorter, I'll use one of the little tulips I have, things like that.
So what's that circle light you use in all your photos?
That's
really cool.
It's a circle. Yeah. It's a circle LED lamp from a company called Brightech. I got it on Amazon like years ago. And recently, the one I was using for like 5 years straight, it sort of started to break, and so I immediately just bought a second one because it's still an amazing light.
Yeah, that really makes a lot of your photos. Like it just draws it to the center, and sometimes the Gundam's like in the middle of it or to the side of it. It's very cool how you.
Oh yeah, especially with like the more reflective ones. Like I actually posted the Unicorn Phoenix today in the ring light, and I'm still blown away with how the shiny gold plating reflects with that light just all around it. It's crazy.
So I don't want to make you give away any industry secrets and whatnot, but what goes into creating your kind of workspace? Are you using like some basic tools, or using some like Godhands and other things when you're building?
I still use the Tamiya Sharp side cutters. I was using those for years. I recently upgraded to a pair of Godhands just for like cleanup work. So I still use the Tamiya Sharp to get the piece out, and then I clean it up with the Godhands.
How do you like the Godhands?
I mean, they're good. I mean, I don't I don't think they don't shine down from the heavens.
Right. You use like the SPN 120s that everyone likes.
Yeah,
okay.
They're great.
Yeah, I learned this the hard way. I got into the hype. I bought a Godhand. I think Matthew and Joey bought Godhands after me just because. But I realized that they weren't the end-all, be-all. I had to kind of switch back and forth between what I was using before and the Godhand.
I mean, I noticed a difference. I mean, it's never going to replace, like, sanding properly.
Yeah.
And polishing. But
you still got to sand. You still got to, remove those nut marks. You still got to get in there with the X-Acto knife every once in a while.
Exactly. The thing I like about the Godhand, though, is how thin the blades are. I feel like I can fit in nooks and crannies better. It's less about, like, how well it cuts and more about, like, where it fits for me.
Yeah.
Because sometimes...
I would definitely say that.
Like I have a pair of Zuron cutters, too, that I like, side cutters. But they're kind of... I don't know. I feel like I'm like manhandling my kits sometimes, so I usually use those for like larger cuts, and then when I need to get more precise, I use the Godhands.
But I also meant in terms of like your workspace. When Matthew first started out, or at least when I guess I introduced him to the craft side of things.
You didn't create me.
You created yourself. He went from like small workspace to like a full-on airbrush to like crazy thing in his garage. Was the transition kind of like the same for you? Did you start off like with a small basic kit, and then it just grew and grew and...
Yeah, I started off...
you got room dedicated.
I started off with like no cutting mat, just basic side cutters that I think I got from like a craft store. And so now I've got my cutting mat, I've got all my tools. I bought something to organize all the runners because, like I said, right now I'm building the Master Grade Fast, and that has like 60 runners, and they're just everywhere right now. I stopped painting for a while because my last apartment just had so little space and no balcony to paint on or anything. But now that I have a house with like extra rooms and a basement and a garage, I'm gonna be getting back into going crazy with airbrushes real soon.
That's my problem right now. Is I was in a house and now I just moved to an apartment, so airbrushing is kind of out now for me. But I'm doing a lot of panel lining and stuff like that, so it's fun. It's still fun.
Oh, yeah.
Do you have any pets?
No,
it is National
yet.
Dog Day or something like that, so...
Look at Courtney going to the heart of that.
I gotta know.
People want to
I
hear.
Do you have
gotta
anything
know
fluffy?
if there's cats or dogs involved.
I will definitely be getting a dog or a cat at some point now that I'm in a house instead of an apartment.
Well, congratulations on getting a house, and congratulations
Thank
on your
you.
potential new fur baby.
Well, if you do get an animal, if you get a dog, make sure they don't chew up your stuff. But if you get a cat, you're going to need a lot of glass enclosures.
Yeah, oh man. The only thing, I grew up with cats, and so I know that they just like to, anything they see is theirs, so they'll just jump up, knock down whatever's there, and go to sleep. And so I don't want to like come into my office in the middle of the night and just find a cat on a shelf and like 4 Gundams on the floor.
All right, I got a business pitch for you, and you're welcome to take this
Okay.
idea. You can claim it as your own. Get a cat and just dress it up as well. I like how you have different outfits like that go with your pictures. I need you to have mini outfits for your cat or dog, and you need to incorporate that.
Well, you could have like.
Does anyone know if they make like a Char Aznable helmet for a dog?
That would be so
that would be
cute.
amazing.
I mean, I'm sure they do, dude.
Char
Halfway
Dogable.
with the model.
Oh man, that'd be awesome.
It would.
Jamal, I think you kind of hit us with everything we got. I want you to just pitch yourself. Go ahead.
All right. Well, you can always find me on Instagram at Colvinology. That's COLVINOLOGY. My sponsor is USA Gundam Store. If you buy from there and you use the code Colvinology, you can get 10% off. You can also sign up for the beer delivery service Tavor and use the code Colvinology to get a $10 credit. And using those codes helps me out, helps support me.
All right, so cool. You can find us on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, YouTube, and online at geekenvy.podbean.com. We're on Instagram and Twitter at geekenvy. And any comments, suggestions, questions, you can email us at askgeekenvy@gmail.com. And that is all for today. We want to thank Jamal again for joining us, and say goodnight.
Have a good night, guys.
Thanks for having me. Love to do it again.